Watch this.
It's been an active spring for thunderstorms in southern Idaho. Well, sure, it's been fun to watch, but not for those whose businesses have been put underwater. Literally, one nonprofit who's made a name for itself helping others is now looking for some help of its own. Texting, emailing, streaming, video chatting, the list goes on. We've never been more connected, and you can thank the internet for that. But not everyone has it. So now millions of dollars will be making the interwebs more accessible for Idaho's rural communities. An old tradition is coming back to the blue. Yes, it's still football in Albertson Stadium, but not like we've seen in a decade. You know, usually in the hours and days after a damaging storm, TV news crews head out to cover the consequences, like last week with the downed trees, the closed roads, the stalled cars, and the flooding. Well, there was one local organization that didn't get a lot of attention in that aftermath, probably because they don't get a lot of attention anyway. Artisans for Hope began nearly a decade ago with a goal of helping incoming refugees get a skill set so they can learn the language, get a job, find a place to live, and ultimately make their way in their new community. Refugees come to Boise from all over, and if you didn't already know, you should probably know they only get about 8 months of assistance to do all of those things, and then they're out on their own. And that's where Artisans for Hope comes in. Volunteers teach them a skill like, say, sewing, using donated materials and equipment, and then they sell what they make, getting most of the money for themselves. And most of them come to this country having been something of substance back home, like a doctor, a nurse, a mechanic, or even a teacher. They can't just walk into those jobs here. So they have to start from scratch, usually starting several steps back. And what happened last week to the nonprofit's classroom and gift shop, well, trips up this refugee transition a bit more. In the basement of this building in Boise's North End. How long have these fans been going?
These fans have been going since Wednesday morning.
These fans are trying to dry out what used to be the floor for Artisans for Hope.
Over here, it soaked the carpets.
It was the damaging storm which rolled through the City of Trees last evening.
Big storm Tuesday night.
Bringing nearly 2 inches of rain in about 2 hours and flooding several sections of Boise, including along 15th Street. Watching it from home, Ellie McKinnon thought nothing of it.
Not a thing. Just thought it was actually a remarkable thing to watch.
Until she arrived at work Wednesday morning.
So the water probably came down and over.
Being below ground didn't bode well for them.
It was not a welcoming sight.
Water not only filled their stairwell, overpowering their drain, it took the door off its hinges.
Not only the hinges, it took part of the frame with it. It's a lot of force, a lot of force. But you can see how high the water was. This much water with some force behind it. This door was on the floor in the studio, and muck and mud was about everywhere.
Cleanup began almost immediately, with volunteers managing to move most of their materials into what was once their classroom and studio. Now, it's just storage. So the classes have to be put on hold.
The building is, the basement is closed, the classes are on hold, yeah.
Which is more than just an annoyance.
Oh my God.
For some of their artisans, like Maria, who is seeing the studio for the first time since last week.
All is here is water and everything is in the floor, its door is broke. Oh, I'm so sad. I go back and now it's better.
Yeah, anything that was normally on the floor was covered. So that's sort of sewing machine pedals. And
Ellie says the plan,
these would be 2 examples,
is to be back making stuff to sell
jacket,
soon.
a purse.
After all, they can't be Artisans for Hope.
I feel like you need help.
Oh, yeah.
Without the hope. And adding to the misfortune, Artisans for Hope did not have flood insurance. As Ellie McKinnon, the director, told us, they're not that close to the river, to the Boise River, and they live in a desert, so they didn't think they needed it or didn't ask for it. Well, neither did their landlord, but they've covered the cost of the disaster cleanup, the landlord did. As for when they might be able to get back in their studio and the classroom and the gift shop, it depends a lot on the damage and the ability to pay for it. She says they still aren't quite sure the extent of it, like how many sewing machine pedals, which are on the floor. They aren't sure if they work or not yet, so they're still making sure. McKinnon does say she knows for sure Artisans for Hope will very much be a part of Boise's World Refugee Day this Saturday on the Grove Plaza. Artisans will be there selling their work, and of course, every little bit helps them get back in the business of helping Boise's newest refugee residents.
The president believes that knowledge is the great equalizer, and if you don't have access to the internet, it's a necessity now. It's not a luxury anymore.
Yeah, access to the internet is something a lot of us do take for granted. I mean, how many times have you complained about not having Wi-Fi like anywhere? Well, it's not so readily available across a lot of Idaho's rural areas, which means a lot of places. 88% of Idaho is considered rural, and 28% of Idahoans live in those places. That access adversity is about to change for some of them. It's part of the Invest in America agenda, and today the Biden-Harris administration announced $714 million in grants and loans to connect rural communities in 19 states to high-speed internet. And Idaho would be one of those 19. But it's not going to be for everyone right away.
So the Oregon Telephone Company is going to receive over $15.3 million in grant and loan combination to deploy fiber networks to provide high-speed internet. And this money is going to go to a network that's going to benefit 7,300 or so people, 145 businesses, 500 farms, 400 educational facilities in Ada and Canyon counties in Idaho, and then in Grant County in Oregon, because the Oregon Telephone Company is the provider for both Idaho and Oregon in this part of the country.
It's Ada County, Mr. Landrieu. Anyway, he said Ada, Canyon, and Grant County were chosen by the Department of Agriculture after looking at different areas that needed it most.
This one is specifically designed to make sure that folks in rural America know that they're seen, don't get left behind, and have the access to the same level of knowledge and technology that everybody else does in the country.
Okay, so how soon will all of this get started? Landrieu said, well, right now. It's the fourth time the government has given money for this. The Oregon Telephone Company, which apparently covers Idaho, can start using the money and laying down those fibers like today. And this won't be the last time they do that. More money should be coming through the pipeline, meaning more internet coverage for more of rural Idaho is also to come. Someone other than Boise State fans are going to have a reason to cheer at Albertson Stadium this year because high school football is back on the blue. All right, how about you give us a reason to cheer? Send us your questions, your comments, and even your complaints. All you got to do is text them to the number on your screen, 208-321-5614. Don't forget, include your name and the hashtag the 208. Oh, and keep them clean, concise, and clever, and we might share yours at the end of the show. Yes, we know we're in the middle of baseball season, but for football fans, you know, it's never too early to talk about football. And for those who have been around here long enough, remember when Friday night on the Blue was reserved for high school football? Well, since Donna Larson Park was dedicated in 2013, a regular season high school game hasn't been on the Blue at Albertson Stadium in a decade. That's about to change, though, for one night this season. one night, but not just one game. Mark your calendars for September 1st because there will be a triple header at Albertson Stadium. Sports Director Jay Tuss broke the news and spoke with the coach that's making it all happen.
Cameron, for a long time, I thought it would be cool to bring high school football back to Albertson Stadium. It's been a little while. Sounds like you got something up your sleeve. What is that exactly?
I've been working for a few years on a concept similar to what the Rocky Mountain Rumble is in Pocatello, but really just Idaho-based. Idaho schools versus Idaho schools, showcasing our best talent inside that stadium. And it's been a struggle, but really opening up the line of communications. And Coach Avalos at Boise State and Mr. Dickey are so focused on building high school relationships because they know that we feed some of the talent that's coming in their state. And there's really been a divide, I think, over years past. And a lot of people have found it complicated to get into that venue. But I approached them and they started working with me. And then I got to work with Nathan Burke over at facilities. And we got a really good donor in Southern Solar Pros who's going to cover some costs, and we created an event where 6 schools are going to be playing at Boise State on September 1st. Oakley and Kendrick in a matchup of the 2 state champions from 8-man will be at 3. Emmett and Fruitland in an absolute rivalry that's been there for years and years and years will be game 2 at 5:30. And then Burley and Valley View will be the late game under the lights at 8 o'clock. We worked really, really hard, and a lot of people have got it done. And this really demonstrates the capacity of Boise State really wanting high schools to use their facility and really trying to build relationships with them.
So a triple header on the blue set for September 1st.
Yeah.
When do tickets go on sale? Can you buy tickets to all 3 games? And what is the celebration of this event going to look like?
Oh, it's going to be an event. The tickets go on sale July 10th. You buy a ticket for the first game, you can stay for all 3. We wanted to make it as fan-friendly as possible. Also, one of the big messages we want to get out there, because of Boise State bending over backwards to help us get this done, and because of Southern Solar Pros jumping in, not only is it not going to cost the high schools any money to play in the game, they'll actually get their gate reimbursed. So home gates really drive schools. The football gates generally pay for most of the other sports to participate, the non-revenue sports. And so when you play in a venue like that, like Boise State or Idaho State or any of those, and you do it in a neutral site game, you are giving up a home gate that pays for many of the things in your athletic budget. I was able to work with those schools over the past couple months, figure out what a general gate was, what some concessions were, and due to what Boise State did for us and Southern Solar Pros jumping in, we're going to be able to reimburse them that gate in the end. So it's a no-risk situation where kids get to play on the blue, which is what they've always dreamed of.
One of those kids happens to be a pretty highly rated recruit, maybe the highest rated recruit in the history of our state. Gatlin Bear is your wide receiver 1. How excited is he to bring his talents to a place that he's obviously considering playing it at the next level? And that right there probably could be a huge attraction for fans as well, the chance to see Gatlin play up here in Boise.
Yeah, obviously he's finding out the same way you guys are. We just told our kids this week. We've been keeping it under our hats and pretty quiet, and a lot of people are going to assume that that's why this game is happening, but really it's been happening it's been worked on for a while. And I know that Gatlin has told everyone that Boise State's going to be in his top 2, and I can tell you as his head coach, being in communication with him, that's dead on. He's really high on the Broncos, so I'm certain the ability to play in a stadium where he has possibility to play 3 or 4 years of college football and be in that stadium, I'm certain it's something that he's going to love. But he's been on an official visit this weekend down at TCU, so I haven't got to talk to him one-on-one, but he's just finding out like the rest of you, and I know that he's pretty fired up to just have that opportunity.
This is something that seems like it certainly has some potential here, Cameron. What do you envision for the future? I mean, is this a one-and-done thing, or do you think this has the chance to be an annual event and maybe even continue to grow?
No, we want it to become an annual event and to grow it, and that's a big push from Boise State as well. They really want to demonstrate to entities like the IHSAA that if we do it the right way and we communicate like crazy, we can host major football events in that stadium. There is some work, but the love for this state has for that university and that building and that surface people are willing to jump in and help with that to make it happen. And it's every kid's dream to play there. Really, if we can demonstrate this can be done well, next year we want to make it a 2-day event where possibly all 6 classifications are represented in 6 different games over 2 days.
Wow, 6 games on the blue. How about that lineup one more time? Triple header happening Friday, September 1st at Albertsons Stadium. Oakley's going to take on Kendrick at 3. Heard about the 8-man football there. Emmett's going to take on Fruitland at 5:30. And if you haven't seen 8-man football, it's a lot of fun and a lot of scoring. The nightcap will be Burley taking on Valley View, and that takes place at 8 p.m.
Just breathtaking, some of the images and the videos we've been seeing from our stormy weather from the last couple of weeks. Those were gorgeous photos. Thank you for sharing, everyone. If you love a good storm, you have loved the setup for the last 4 weeks or so. And I have a good news, bad news scenario for you then. The good news is we have more stormy weather today and it will persist through Tuesday. Bad news for you storm lovers is that we have drier, more stable air that will arrive midweek. And after that, we'll see those storm chances hold off until Sunday and into early next week. But if you're ready for some drier, more predictable weather, I think Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, even into Saturday will be your days. Not the case today. Look at this dramatic shot from Skycam 7 on the top of our building here at KTVB off of Fairview. You can see that precipitation coming down over the foothills. Still at 81 degrees in the city of trees. Our dew point right now is at 49, so that puts our humidity at 33%. I've heard a couple folks around the building saying it feels a little sticky out there, a little bit muggy. And we don't talk about dew point a whole lot here in Southwest Idaho and our semi-arid high desert climate, right? But these are our current dew point temperatures. They're a really good measure of how much moisture is in the air. So it's not until you get into those 60s with the dew points that you really start to feel kind of sticky or muggy. But for our dry climate, dew points up to 52, 54. Yes, it will feel just a little bit sticky to us out there. And we do have plenty of moisture in the air. We have had a very moist atmosphere for the last several weeks. We are seeing once again a round of thunderstorms. This particular round, I'm watching this storm cell moving from the north to the south, just crossing I-84 west of Mountain Home. Lots of lightning and bursts of heavy rain with this storm. Also rolling down from Long Valley right into Gem County, Payette County as well, reaching for places like Emmett, New Plymouth possibly could be in for some heavy rain. Our central mountains have been stormy throughout the day today. So we are used to this setup by now. No big shocker that we saw those storms today. We'll have an identical scenario for tomorrow. Sunshine in the morning, storms in the afternoon and evening because of this low pressure that will finally trek off to the east tomorrow. This is what we're watching for those drier conditions midweek. Early Wednesday morning, we have a cool front that will move by as that system skirts just to the north of us. So Wednesday will be windy. Heads up on that. Late Tuesday night into early Wednesday morning, that front will howl through, but it's a dry front, no precipitation coming, and then behind it, we will stabilize and see sunny conditions, but a little bit of a cool down. So here's your outlook for Tuesday. We'll see those temperatures in the Magic Valley into the mid-70s again, mid-60s with isolated storms in our central mountain locations. No big change there for tomorrow. It's Wednesday again that we see those changes coming down to 78 degrees in Boise, sunny but windy, then calmer and slightly warmer on Thursday. Gorgeous heading into the weekend, those mid-80s with sunshine Friday and Saturday, but storm chances do return on Sunday.
You know, with all the storms and recent rains we've been having lately, hard to forget, or it's easy to forget, I should say, that we do live in a high desert here in southern Idaho. Dry heat doesn't lend well to wildflowers in dry years. But as the saying goes, May showers lead to June flowers. Isn't that how it goes? Back in June of 1993, they had a pretty cool wet spring, similar to what we had this year. Then things really heated up to create the perfect recipe for wildflowers to cook, creating a masterpiece in the southern, sparser part of the state. Former KTVB reporter David Mills takes us back in time in today's Exploring Idaho.
What is sometimes seen as an unattractive desert is far from unattractive this year. For the past 8 years, drought and hot summers kept wildflowers from making a strong showing. But a cool, wet spring followed by a warm spell have produced a spectacular display.
It kind of sat there waiting to explode, and then when we had the warm weather, boom, they came out. And now the desert is alive with color.
From the white phlox to the blue lupine, Popovich calls this a sight for sore eyes.
Nature has come up with this grand scheme of producing many different beautiful colors and shapes of wildflowers as part of the landscape.
In a place where a couple of dozen Lewissia flowers might bloom, thousands dot the landscape.
The flower of this plant is so delicate and so beautiful, yet it's growing in a very harsh environment, rocky, hot, dry. That contrast is beautiful to me.
It has been about 10 years since the wildflowers have shown their colors in this fashion, and botanists, those who study these flowers, say it may be a long time before we see another exhibit like this one. They fear we're losing thousands of acres of flowers a year. They're being choked out by things like wildfires and weeds.
People don't really realize it, but prior to European settlement, all of this country had wildflowers, and all of this country was alive with color. With European settlement, we brought in weeds, and we brought in fires, and we brought land into cultivation, and that habitat loss has resulted in the loss of millions of acres of what once supported wildflowers.
Popovich says it is nearly impossible to reclaim the land already lost to weeds. It's not easy to get rid of these stubborn plants and even tougher to replant wildflowers in their place. But the Bureau of Land Management is looking at ways to preserve the wildflowers that still remain, although it appears to be an uphill battle.
they're a beautiful thing that has been on this earth in southern Idaho for the last 15,000 years. To watch that go by the wayside in another 50 or 100 years is a sorrowing thought.
If they thought wildfires were a major threat 30 years ago. Ooh. Well, you know, not sure we're having quite the same bloom as they did 30 years ago, but you know what you can be sure of, if you head to the foothills this time, about this time, you're gonna notice some pretty nice wildflowers that are sprinkled along the trails in the Boise foothills, so check those out. All right, let's wrap up this Monday with a look at some of the comments you send in today about the stories we covered today, like the one about Artisans for Hope. Thank you so much for your coverage of the water damage to Artisans for Hope. It's a wonderful organization. The products they make are truly amazing. Hope your viewers will support them by making purchases soon and in the future, says PJ Smith in Nampa. Meanwhile, Mary wants to know when they can do that. How can we help Artisans for Hope? I live in the neighborhood and had no idea of the extensive damage. Like I said, they will be at the World Refugee Day, Boise's World Refugee Day, coming up this Saturday, the 17th, on the Grove in the plaza, selling their wares. You can buy stuff there, or you can just support them anytime you want. Please say rural. Other than that, love the show. Rural. Rural? Rural.